The alarm sirens echoed through the steel corridors of Kepler Station, a sound that every colonist feared but none had truly expected. On the bridge of the destroyer Resolute, Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair, knuckles white, as red emergency lights bled across every surface. Outside the viewport, the void itself seemed alive with violence. Flashes of weapons fire lit the black expanse like dying stars, brief and terrible. What should have been silence in the vacuum was instead translated into vibrations, shudders of the ship, the thunder of failing hull plates, the groan of engines forced beyond their limits. Humanity was fighting for survival on the edge of known space. Report. Jake barked, his voice carrying the sharpness of command but the weight of dread. 12 enemy ships, sir, all larger than anything in our fleet, answered Lieutenant Amy Walsh from the comm station. She spoke steadily, but her eyes betrayed the fear beneath. They're using some kind of energy shields. Our missiles can't break through. Jake turned to the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet filled the hollow projection, moving in a perfection of order that only centuries of conquest could produce. Each vessel was a mile-long predator of gleaming alloy, armored in energy fields that rippled like liquid light. Human weapons splashed against them, harmless, like raindrops on glass. "We've lost the Ranger and the Phoenix," reported Commander Rick Torres at Weapons. His voice shook despite his effort to steady it. "They're disabling our engines first, then finishing us with plasma fire." Behind Jake, standing tall despite the storm of disaster, was Admiral Lisa Grant. 62 years old, hardened by decades of service, yet even her weathered face was tight with tension. For 8 years she had commanded the United Earth Colonial Fleet, but never had she faced an enemy like this. The Zephyrians had arrived without warning, dropping from hyperspace like predators slipping from shadow. Their attack was not wild, but deliberate, precise. They knew what they wanted, and humanity was in the way. Lisa's voice cut the tense air. "How many civilians remain on the station?" 47,000, Admiral, Amy answered, her fingers moving over controls. "Dr. Kane reports the evacuation ships are loading, but we need more time." Through the viewport, Kepler Station rotated slowly against the stars. It had been humanity's hope on this frontier, 3 generations of colonists, scientists, engineers, children. Families who had believed that the galaxy might allow them to exist in peace. Now their sanctuary was a target marked for destruction. "The station's shields are at 30%, Rick called out as the ship shook from another explosion. "Defensive platforms are being shredded." Jake cursed under his breath. The display showed the cold, deliberate dismantling of human defenses. The Zephyrians didn't fight like explorers. They fought like butchers who had done this countless times before. "Sir," Amy's voice trembled, "incoming transmission, from the lead vessel." On screen, Lisa ordered. The holo display flickered. The bridge of the alien warship appeared, a cathedral of metal and light. At its center stood Fleet Commander Vex of the Zephyrian Empire. 7 feet tall, reptilian, scales shimmering silver-green under his ship's artificial glow. For eyes burned with contempt as clawed hands rested on what looked like a ceremonial blade. "I am Vex," he declared, his voice layered with arrogance. "You humans occupy space that belongs to my people. Surrender, and your deaths will be swift." Lisa stepped forward, chin raised. "This is Admiral Lisa Grant of the United Earth Colonial Fleet. These colonies were founded over 50 years ago. We have every right to be here." Vex's lipless mouth curled, revealing rows of jagged teeth. "Rights are claimed by strength, human. And your strength is nothing. We have conquered 47 systems. Yours will be the 48th. Lisa didn't flinch. Her reply was ice. "Then go to hell." The alien's expression hardened. "Very well. You have 10 minutes to evacuate civilians. After that, we reduce your station to ash. Your ships will die regardless." The transmission ended. Silence pressed against the human bridge like a weight. Jake looked around at his crew, seeing in their faces the same desperate determination he felt in his chest. They knew the truth, their fleet could not win. But to surrender was to abandon 47,000 lives to certain death. Rick's voice was quiet. "Orders, sir." Lisa's reply came without hesitation. "We fight. Signal all remaining ships, form up around the station. If the Zephyrians want genocide, they'll have to cut through us first." The colonial fleet had been reduced to 4 destroyers and 2 frigates. Scarred, battered, low on ammunition. Against 12 warships of the Zephyrian Empire, the math was hopeless. Yet still, they turned toward the Predator's jaws. Dr. Peter Kane's voice crackled through comms from the medical bays of Kepler Station. "Admiral, we're receiving the wounded from damaged ships. I need 30 minutes to stabilize them before transport. Without it, they won't survive the journey." "You'll have your time, Peter," Lisa answered. "I promise." The Zephyrian fleet moved into bombardment formation, their cannons glowing blue with power. In 8 minutes, Kepler Station would be reduced to debris. Lisa turned to Amy. "Prepare a final message to Earth Command. Tell them the Zephyrians are beyond anything we imagined. If we fall, they'll come for the inner colonies next." Amy nodded, tears streaking her face as she began to record. Jake's destroyer shuddered into formation with the other survivors. 4 destroyers. 2 frigates. They would not survive. But they would not surrender either. The alien fleet advanced. Death approached. And then, something changed. The void itself began to ripple. Like heat waves over asphalt, distortions shimmered against the black. Gravity twisted, light bent, sensors screamed warnings that made no sense. Rick whispered, "What in God's name is that?" Amy frantically checked her screens. "Sir, I'm reading, something enormous. But it's like it isn't fully there. Readings change every second." Lisa stepped closer to the viewport, eyes narrowed. She had seen many strange things in her decades among the stars. But never this, never the sky itself tearing open. The Zephyrian comms erupted with Vex alarm. "What sorcery is this? Massive energy signatures." But nothing visible. Even the conquerors hesitated. Their formation faltered. Their weapons swiveled toward the anomaly. Their arrogance slipped, replaced by fear. And then the universe unfolded. From the rift emerged a ship so vast it dwarfed everything in sight. Over 2 miles from bow to stern, its hull was a shadow bristling with weapons, each one capable of shattering mountains. Lights ran across its surface, and with them came a name etched into the steel, a name that made Jake Morrison's heart stop. UES Liberty. Lisa's voice was a whisper. "Dear God, it's one of ours." The bridge of the Resolute fell silent. No one breathed. No one moved. Before them hung a vessel so impossibly vast that even the Zephyrian fleet seemed diminished in its shadow. The UES Liberty. 2 miles of steel and secrets, a relic of Earth's hidden past, now alive in the void. Its arrival was not loud or violent, it was silent, almost contemplative, as though the ship itself had been waiting for this precise moment in history to emerge. "Where did it come from?" whispered Lieutenant Amy Walsh. Her voice was almost reverent, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the vision before her. Jake Morrison's chest tightened. He had spent 20 years serving Earth's fleet. He knew every destroyer, every frigate, every dreadnought in commission. But the Liberty had never appeared in any registry, not in any classified briefing. And yet, here it was, towering, undeniable, and very, very real. Admiral Lisa Grant's eyes stayed fixed on the massive silhouette. "This was never meant for us to see. Not yet." The Zephyrians were the first to react. Commander Vex's fleet scattered formation, cannons turning toward the anomaly. His voice crackled across open channels, layered with fury and confusion. This is impossible. Humans do not build ships like that. His words carried not just rage, but something far rarer for his kind, fear. The Liberty did not answer. No hails. No warnings. It simply turned, slow and deliberate, until its bow faced the Zephyrian warships. Jake's tactical officer read the impossible data aloud. Sir. I'm detecting energy spikes across its hull. But the readings are off the scale. I don't even recognize the patterns. It's like the ship is bending the rules of physics around itself. Is it ours? Amy whispered. Lisa's reply was quiet but steady. It bears Earth's markings. It carries our flag. That makes it ours. The Zephyrians were not waiting. Vex barked commands, and a dozen alien warships opened fire. Streams of plasma, hyper-accelerated slugs, beams of coherent energy, an orchestra of annihilation hurtled toward the Liberty. Every human on the bridge braced for impact. But the Liberty did not move. The weapon struck its hull, and vanished. No explosions. No rippling shields. The attack simply dissolved into nothing, as if the ship were swallowing the violence itself. The bridge of the Resolute erupted in disbelief. My God, Rick Torres muttered. It's absorbing their fire. Jake leaned forward, unable to look away. The Liberty wasn't armored like their destroyers. It wasn't resisting, it was rewriting the very terms of battle. Then, for the first time, the Liberty spoke. A voice, calm and mechanical, resonated across every comm channel in the system. Not human. Not alien. Something older. This is UEES Liberty. To the enemies of Earth, leave this system. You have trespassed upon humanity's domain. The word sent chills down Jake's spine. They weren't spoken with anger, or pride, or threat. They were a declaration. Cold. Absolute. Vexed laughter tore across the comms, guttural and sharp. You think one ghost ship can defy the Zephyrian Empire? Fire again. The alien fleet unleashed another barrage, more desperate, more frenzied. And once again, the Liberty swallowed the storm. Then, without warning, the Liberty answered. Its hull shifted. Panels slid apart like the petals of a blooming flower, revealing a weapon the size of a city block. Energy built in silence, a light so bright it cast shadows across the human fleet. Brace! Jake shouted instinctively. The Liberty fired. It wasn't a beam. It wasn't a missile. It was something else entirely, pure force, a lance of gravity and energy bound together, tearing through the void like the hand of a god. One of the Zephyrian warships simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no wreckage, just absence, erased from reality. The silence that followed was deafening. Amy's hands trembled at her console. It just deleted them. The Liberty fired again. And again. With each pulse, another Zephyrian vessel vanished, swallowed whole by the impossible. In less than 3 minutes, the fleet that had terrorized Kepler Station for hours was gone. 12 warships. Erased. On the Resolute's bridge, no one spoke. They were witnessing something that should not exist, something that defied every law they had been taught to believe unbreakable. And then came the transmission. The holoscreen lit with the face of Commander Vex, his arrogance shattered. Behind him, the void where his fleet had once stood. What are you? He demanded. His scales trembled, his voice cracked. For the first time, the Predator was prey. Lisa Grant stepped forward. We are humanity. Remember the name. Vex's 4 eyes narrowed, hatred and fear intertwining. This is not the end. You cannot hide forever. The Empire will learn of this. And when it comes, no ship, no fleet will save you. His image flickered and vanished. The Liberty, silent as before, slowly turned toward Kepler Station. Shuttles launched from its bays, sleek, advanced designs no human crew had ever seen. They moved with purpose, docking with the station, delivering aid, stabilizing shields, deploying drones that repaired damage as if decades of engineering had been compressed into minutes. Dr. Peter Kane's voice broke over comms, thick with disbelief. "Admiral, they're healing the station. Machines, ours, but not ours. Technology decades ahead of anything we've built. Where did it come from?" Lisa Grant said nothing. She stared at the Liberty, her mind racing with questions that had no answers. Humanity had been a child in the dark, stumbling, fragile. But now, a door had opened, and something older, hidden, had stepped through. Jake finally spoke what they were all thinking. "If this is ours, why didn't Earth tell us? Why keep it hidden until now?" Lisa didn't answer. She only whispered, almost to herself. "Because maybe we weren't ready to know." The Liberty finished its work, then drifted back toward the rift from which it had come. The anomaly bent and shimmered, swallowing the massive ship whole. And just as suddenly as it had arrived, it was gone. Silence returned. Only wreckage and stars remained. The colonists of Kepler Station survived. Humanity had not been extinguished. But in the stillness that followed, questions lingered heavier than fear. What was the Liberty? Who built it? And if Earth had hidden such power, what else were they hiding? Word of the battle spread faster than light. From the mining colonies of Tau Ceti to the crowded arcologies of Mars, the story repeated itself in countless tongues. A single human ship erased an entire Zephyrian fleet. At first, many refused to believe it. Propaganda, some said. A desperate lie told by a colony on the brink of annihilation. But then came the survivors, thousands of colonists evacuated from Kepler Station, their voices trembling as they recounted what they had seen. The UES Liberty was no rumor. It was real. And the galaxy was listening. In the chambers of the Zephyrian High Council, panic erupted. Never before had their empire lost so decisively, not in 5 centuries of conquest. To be humbled by humans, a species they had mocked as primitive, was unthinkable. Commander Vex stood before the council, stripped of the arrogance that once defined him. His scales dulled, his voice cracked with desperation. It was not them, he insisted. No human fleet could do this. That ship was something else, something hidden. But the counselors heard only failure. To admit fear was weakness. To admit ignorance was worse. One by one, they declared the same verdict, vengeance. The Zephyrian Empire would not rest until humanity was broken, until Earth itself burned. And yet, in the shadows of the council chamber, doubt lingered. If humans truly possessed such technology, then perhaps the galaxy had misjudged them. Across neutral space, other species whispered. The Harari, ancient and reclusive, sent encrypted messages into the void. They did not celebrate humanity's survival. They did not mourn the Zephyrian dead. They spoke only in riddles. The architects stir. The cycle bends. The pawns move again. Few understood. Most dismissed the words as superstition. But those who had studied the Harari knew better. They spoke rarely. And when they did, history itself shifted. On Earth, the mood was no less divided. The survival of Kepler Station should have been a triumph, but in the corridors of power, the Liberty's appearance raised questions no leader wanted to answer. Where had the ship come from? Why had it been hidden? And, perhaps most importantly, who truly commanded it? In the halls of the United Earth Directorate, generals whispered of Project Silent Dawn, a black program buried so deep even most admirals had never heard its name. Rumors told of technology not born of Earth, but found, buried in the Kuiper Belt, on a derelict structure older than humanity itself. The Liberty was not simply built. It was awakened. Admiral Lisa Grant was summoned to Earth Command within days. She was praised, decorated, paraded as the savior of Kepler Station. But behind closed doors, she was interrogated. "What did you see?" the directorate demanded. "How much did the crew learn? Did the colonists witness the Liberty's weapons?" Her answers were measured. Careful. She knew too much truth would only deepen the fractures already spreading through Earth's leadership. And yet, even Lisa could not silence the question echoing in her mind: if humanity truly possessed such power, why were they still hiding it? Meanwhile, among the stars, something far older than Earth was watching. The architects. No one had ever seen them. No one even knew if they still existed. But their fingerprints were everywhere, on ruins older than galaxies, on technology beyond comprehension, on whispers buried in the histories of dozens of alien civilizations. Some said they were gods. Others said they were demons. The Harari claimed they were neither, that the architects were engineers of reality itself, sculptors of civilizations, builders and destroyers of cycles. And now, if the Harari were right, the architects had stirred again. At Kepler Station, life slowly returned. Repairs continued. Families emerged from bunkers, breathing recycled air that no longer carried the taste of fear. Children played in corridors once scarred by fire. But among the survivors, the memory of the Liberty remained. They spoke of its shadow, its silence, its impossible weapons. To them, it was not a ship. It was salvation. A promise that humanity was not alone, not fragile, not doomed to extinction. And yet, in that promise, a seed of unease grew. Because if Earth had been hiding such a ship, what else were they hiding? On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Jake Morrison watched the stars with a new weight pressing on his chest. He had survived battles before. He had lost ships, comrades, friends. But never had he felt so utterly changed. The Liberty's arrival had rewritten what it meant to be human. They were no longer prey. No longer background noise in a galaxy of empires. They had stepped into the light, and the galaxy had seen them. Jake's thoughts were broken by Amy Walsh's voice. "Sir, message from Earth Command. We're to remain in system until further notice. They want us silent. No transmissions. No movement." Jake nodded slowly. It was exactly what he had expected. Fear. Control. The same instincts that had defined Earth's leaders for centuries. But as he stared into the dark, he couldn't silence the whisper in his mind: what if the Liberty wasn't Earth's secret alone? What if it belonged to something greater? In the galactic underworld, rumors became currency. Mercenary captains traded half-truths. Smugglers carried tales like contraband. The legend of the Liberty spread further than any official report could. And for every being who dismissed it as myth, there was another who believed. Among them were the Harari. From their hidden enclaves, they sent a final message into the void, carried on encrypted pulses older than any human code. The architects move their pieces. The empire rages. Humanity awakens. The cycle begins anew. For the first time in 500,000 years, the galaxy looked at humanity not as prey, not as servants, not as fragile colonists clinging to survival. But as something else. Something dangerous. Something unpredictable. And perhaps, something inevitable. Because if the Liberty was only the beginning, then the galaxy had not yet seen the true face of Earth. Not the explorers. Not the colonists. Not even the soldiers. But the survivors. The thinkers. The architects of their own destiny. And in the silence of the stars, one truth lingered, unspoken yet undeniable. Humanity had awakened. And nothing would ever be the same.